So recently we went to Kannur, Biju, me and Prakash, and as we were enjoying the beach, enjoying the stay, we were also talking anything and everything under the world. And it reached a point where discussions around education, it led to a question from Prakash saying, if we read philosophers like Jiddu Krishnamurti, so he has written for many years, almost his entire lifetime, and he has also spoken, and probably same goes to other philosophers as well, right? And there was a very basic question that the scriptures quite often they look very consistent, and that's a little puzzling. So Prakash was asking, how come? So is it that things don't change? And from there, we went on to a more fundamental and generic question that if, let's say, I start an organization with some assumption, a philosophy, then don't the people go through this dilemma that do I guard my belief and philosophy, or do I keep myself open to learn new things and change this? And I hope people are able to appreciate the dilemma, that it's a real dilemma. There isn't a hidden answer in the question, okay? Because think about it, you feel very strongly about something. Let's say, we started with that, okay, children need to be involved in taking a decision about their life. That's what led us to starting this. Now, if you don't guard your philosophy, you can easily sway away from the vision, from the fundamentals, and do something which is very different from what you thought of. But on the other hand, if you are not open to receiving more data, you'll make yourself blind to the learnings, insights. So where do you cross that boundary where you start questioning your own fundamentals? Before we go to more specifics, I would like to pause and see if Prakash has anything to add. But it was this question which led us to, then three of us started talking about so many such examples where we thought similar dilemma many people would go through, not just the founders, but anyone who has discovered something which makes complete sense, it's an insight. So what do you do? Do you keep guarding your insight and learning, or you cross the boundary at some time and raise questions, collect more data, and be ready to tweak it? Anything that you want to add there?
Yeah, so when you were giving example of Jiddu Krishnamurti's writings and speakings over many years, definitely, like I had written one blog post about 15 years back, comparing Ramdev Baba's pranayam, because it became a hit. It was a movement at that point of time when he began the work, and then people in thousands were attending his camps. And then there was a Shilpa Shetty yoga CD that got released. So I was comparing Ramdev Baba's CD versus Shilpa Shetty's yoga CD. One was costly, one was this one, and then many factors I compared. And then I felt so happy writing that blog post. But if I read it now, I see that, okay, I actually compared orange and apple, because Ramdev Baba, it was yoga pranayama CD, and this was asana CD. So the one comparison I made was like the clarity of instruction, the guiding, the way Ramdev Baba did, and the way Shilpa Shetty demonstrated, but there was no instruction per se. So there was a contrast that I was trying to draw, but it was actually comparing two different things. So yeah, I think over 10 years, okay, I see that, okay, what I wrote at that time was not actually real fair comparison. So I think we should be open to look at what we said, what we wrote, and then say, okay, in a certain context that may be true, but it may not be true in other contexts. Yeah.
So just to complete the context setting of this, hopefully a series of such videos that we come up with, what we are thinking of doing is in different domains. There are some questions which incidentally, as we started speaking, we realized all three of us were wondering that, none of us had a clear stand on all of those questions. So we'll probably be raising one of these questions at a time, and these are specifically, these are not very complex domains. In fact, something that actually relates to our life, be it about our how to live a healthy lifestyle, what kind of food you should eat, how much water to drink, or medicines. So as many of you would have heard, the diabetes, the level that has been recently, it has been moved. So do you agree to that? Like, where do you draw the line? How do you take these decisions? And this first one which we thought of starting with is, there is this people say that white is poison, right? In the space of food, as people are discovering many things and sharing it, it's said that white salt, white sugar, white rice, refined wheat flour, which is Maida, and even cow milk, all these five, there's a school of thought which says it's not good for our body.
I also read recently, there is one more added to that.
Really?
White potatoes, it seems.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
No, how can potatoes have, like, aren't they that cream colored? Like, is there any other color of potato?
Yeah, I found it strange. It was in the list which I read in one of the articles. So, yeah. Okay,
Yeah, and it's interesting that I categorically remember first time I heard about this theory was almost 9 years back. Those days we were doing a pilot with this, incidentally, a Krishnamurti Foundation school called the Valley School in Bangalore. And the Valley School food, daily lunch, okay, it's very boring. And there was a festival which was being celebrated, and the food was actually amazing, okay. And the Mysore Pak that you get the cook at Valley School, I have not had that anywhere else. So he had cooked that in sweet, and there was some snacks which was a deep fried item. It was so tasty, and I thought, am I still at Valley School? Nice, we had the evening snacks. Next day we were having lunch, and incidentally the director those days, this gentleman called Dr. Inamdar, he was and he was also having lunch with us, and he was nicely scolding the cook. Okay. So I, with a lot of curiosity, I just asked that, why are you scolding? So he said, yesterday's food, did you have it? I said, oh yeah, it was so good. And he said, no, that's the problem. We like it and you will find it tasty, but it's these three whites, and those days it was three. Okay, I said, okay, what about white? So he said, white salt, white sugar, and white rice. And then I connected the dots. So Valley School, you'll always find brown rice. Some people used to complain, so in small quantity they started keeping white rice as well. And it's interesting that this number 3 has now increased to 6. In fact, till yesterday, in my head, it was only 5.
Yeah.
So yeah, have you read something about it? Like, why these items? Like, what's the theory? What's the problem with these?
Yeah, I think the first thing I want to point out is the articles and then some of the reels categorically say you must stop or avoid right away. And that's how they start, and then it becomes like it catches our attention, and then like we start looking at it. And then I've also seen few people almost like trying to avoid salt, almost trying to avoid sugar and things like that. So I think my question probably is like, okay, how much sugar is okay to eat? How much salt is okay to eat? Should we ask those questions, or like, okay, straight away we rule out those white poisons that they claim to be white poisons?
Oh, so there are people who go to the extreme in terms of eating food without salt.
Yeah.
And And salt must be the sodium part of it, which probably connected to the health of your heart and blood pressure, etc.
Right. Also, the water retention they talk about, like if you have more salt, then it retains more water in your body, and that in turn probably increases blood pressure, it seems. I'm not sure, but I think that's the argument that I read.
And how much is more?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
See, when Namrata had dengue, because of so she was throwing out continuously, and 2 days she didn't eat anything, almost anything. So even fruits, and in the night she suddenly fainted. So during that entire dengue experience, she fainted twice. And first time we were caught by a complete surprise. We didn't know what's happening. And luckily Pankaj, Gayatri, they came. For some reason they thought of giving her black salt based water, some lemon juice, and she immediately came back to senses. So if you look at that aspect, so then certain amount of salt is also required, right?
Yes.
So and what's there in white salt, which is different from black salt? So if you eat black salt, are we saying that the water retention, because ultimately I would assume that more salt would, the water retention, we are not really controlling it, right? That's all happening at the cellular level probably. And again, I'm speaking out of just my plain understanding, right? And probably it's the salt concentration difference, which would either be basic osmosis which is happening, in which case osmosis is not selective, that is it black salt or white salt, and based on that I will decide which way to go. It always, the fluid will move from lower concentration, lower solute concentration to higher solute concentration. So then would black salt make it better? If that's the if fluid, if that's the issue, right?
Yeah.
And again, I would assume that even black salt, so if sodium is the problem, then even black salt should have
it, yeah.
right? And let me say that these are some very basic questions that we are asking, not to prove that white salt being harmful. We don't want to prove that it's incorrect, because we are not experts. Maybe there is a basis, but probably what's the context in which it is said.
Yeah.
What's about the sugar and rice, in case you know?
Sugar, I think it's one is again the I think they are talking about refined sugar. Maybe that's a powder sugar they must be talking about, but in general also the crystal sugar is also I think it's included in the argument. Of course, the major argument is the way the sugarcane juice is processed, and then how it's basically brown color when you boil it, and then to remove the color, I think they use some chemicals, and I think they say that is harmful. So I don't know, like how much of the agent which removes the color from sugarcane juice is actually be part of the final product. I'm not really sure.
Now, let me share one very interesting thing coming to my mind. Because of this, people say that if you don't add those chemicals, it will be brown in color, and probably the first product which comes out is jaggery, right? And hence, that's healthier. And I had been to Gujarat, okay, and there this Kathiawadi, that's a one certain part of Gujarat. Their food is different from other parts of Gujarat. So there was a Kathiawadi restaurant where you get these thick rotis called rotla, and along with that you get ghee and jaggery. That's a very popular dish along with the other things in the meal. And then when I received it, I was searching for jaggery. He said, "Oh, that's the jaggery." And it was perfectly white in color, okay. It was of course bigger pieces, not smaller crystals, but perfectly white in color. And now I started wondering what kind of jaggery this is. So probably some people have shifted to jaggery, but this process, the same process which happens with sugar, continues to happen with jaggery.
Yes, yes. I think you must be remembering during our cycling trip.
Yes.
We had visited one jaggery making unit, and then we
Correct.
saw the chemical packets that we used for that.
Correct.
And then the jaggery which was coming out of that unit was almost white.
Almost white.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And now let me move to.
But I think I want to say more things about jaggery and sugar. Fundamentally, apart from the chemical used to remove the color, they're equally same.
Okay.
The content wise, the nutritional value wise, and all that. So if sugar is not okay, then jaggery is also not okay.
Okay.
In terms of volume of the amount of sugar or jaggery you eat, then it must be not okay. So proposing jaggery as an alternative for sugar seems to be not okay.
And you are saying this based on what you know about the nutritional value that sugar provides and what jaggery provides.
Right.
Okay.
And then one more thing to add to that. These days, are we sure the jaggery is actually the jaggery? Because in my hometown, I visited a jaggery making unit a year back, and I saw 50% of, in the final process where they make the cakes of jaggery, they were adding 50% content like sugar from the sugar factory. So, but you cannot make out that in the final product it is jaggery, and you don't know sugar is added to that. So now it becomes even more complicated to analyze, okay, which one is okay.
Yeah, and in fact, when I remember there was one, so if you recall, we had done a Genie Dunya project during the Amable days. So one of the projects we had got for children from IIM Bangalore was a market research for peanuts, which the farmers wanted to do, to decide which peanuts they should be using to make chicky. And that's when children were working on that project, we started going into the deeper into the price of these chickies. So if you buy one chicky, a small piece, I think it costs around, even today, around 50 rupees. And when we started listing down the cost of the ingredients, it became very apparent that they cannot be using jaggery. And someone confirmed later that chicky is not made from jaggery, and it's also not made from sugar. It's one of these fructose or sucrose, because that's cheaper.
Right. And I remember, I think 4 or 5 years back, when I think newly launched a brown sugar, and I was because I have visited a sugar factory 2-3 times, and I have visited jaggery making units also 2-3 times in my lifetime, and I know the processes are very different. So if it is a crystal sugar, it is from factory. If it is a jaggery, then it is mostly coming as a cake, not as a crystal.
Okay.
So this is a brown crystallized sugar that came in the packet from that company, and I had a big doubt. Okay, this cannot be like true. So then I did a simple test. So I took the brown crystallized sugar and put it in the glass, and then put water. Immediately the brown thing came out, and I could see white crystal sugar underneath it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
and this was from.
But I think then I wrote a mail to them, and then immediately they discontinued that product.
Oh.
Yeah.
So the way we spoke about salt, sugar, and in fact sugar, as you may know, Gujarat food habits are such that sugar is put in almost everything, right? And it's not that previous generations have had health issues. So in case we want to look at data, that's a large amount of data, right? That the generations there have been living with this kind of food habit. Similarly, when we talk about Maida, right, and there are very simple explanations to why it's not good for you, because finer it's same as that Kannur beach. If you remember, the sand being fine, it wasn't you can drive on it. So the Maida being fine, it's easier, so it doesn't flow very easily, and that's where in the digestive system it gets stuck. One of my Kashmiri friends, he asked me very casually that why do people say Maida is not good, and I thought, I wanted to give him all the gyan that oh, you don't know about it, like these are the reasons, and I treated it like a fact. But then he said, in Kashmir we have always had Maida based rotis, we never had wheat flour. And that's when I started looking back at the food habits. Then if you notice the entire Middle East, and in fact it goes all the way up to even Italy and places like that, right? The pizza, which is probably one of the old food items. Similarly, naan, roti. So those regions like Iran, etc., they continue to have that on a daily basis. So now how do we suddenly say that Maida is not good for our body? And from there I was wondering that could there be a context in which a theory applies, right? That maybe it's a certain location, geographic location, or what about your lifestyle? Right? You were saying yesterday that let me pause.
So, I think certainly I think there seems to be a context. One of the key thing in health seems to be the lifestyle, like how active I am during the day, which is called sedentary lifestyle. So if I'm not moving and I'm sitting at desk and then working throughout the day, that means I am leading a sedentary life. So many of these the Maida or sugar consumption are actually linked to sedentary lifestyles. So in olden days, our lifestyle was so that we were so much active. So even if you consume more sugar, more probably refined Maida, this one, probably it would get digested, and then I think the major concern seems to be if you consume refined sugar, and now it is coming in various products. So if I am drinking Coke, Pepsi, then it is there. I can't see it, but it's there. And there are many like cake or any pastry and other things. I think the consumption is, the sugar content is more. So I think maybe there the concern seems to be more. Added to that, sedentary lifestyle is adding to the whole problem. So I think the question probably I would like to ask is whether my lifestyle is sedentary, first thing, and if not, and if I'm active, depending on how much movement is there in the day, how much consumption of sugar is okay in whatever form. Maybe it's part of my regular dish that I eat. I come from North Karnataka, and then invariably we have it's a spicy food, and then there is also a slight addition of either jaggery or sugar. So it's part of the dish. Is that fine? And then I drink maybe 2 to 3 times a day tea or coffee. Then is that fine? Can I draw some conclusion like this, and then that will help, rather than saying sugar is bad, so that I should completely avoid. So I think I am looking at some.
So if we look at the basics of scientific way of thinking, okay, now in a given system, many things can change, right? And when you are studying something, you usually what is called independent, dependent and control variable. So independent variable is the one that you would change and you would observe the effect on some other variables. So if I want to find out, so this room has 5 switches and I want to find out which switch corresponds to this light. I have 5 variables. Each switch can be in on or off state. So I would start with all off and switch on one at a time. So the switch which I am changing, that's the independent variable, and the dependent is I am observing if the light is on or off. Now there is a third kind of variables which are called the control variables. So whenever I am doing that experiment, so when I am switching one switch on and the light doesn't switch on, before I go to the next switch I put this back to off. So the control there is everything else remains off. Now if someone comes up with a research paper about food habits, I don't know what are the control variables there. And in our context, so let's say now your lifestyle gets added as one more variable, and now I don't know, is the white salt or white sugar the root cause, or is your lifestyle the root cause, and how do we find that out? The challenge here is unlike what you can do in a laboratory kind of setup, you can't probably conduct an experiment here, or probably you can. Especially in this case, since it's about your body, your life, we probably also have many observations. And what would be interesting would be to see if someone else is also watching this video, it would be great if you can share with us any stories that you have of your first-hand experience with these things, because the context in which all this research may have come out, we don't know for sure. But if you have experienced something yourself, that can be a lot more conclusive evidence.
For us, I mean, whoever is making it, not a generic conclusion as such.
Yeah, and in fact, in general, I've realized that though we like to be black and white, right? It's but grey is the reality in most cases. Grey is not as glamorous, right? You would look dull and dumb if you are not able to take a side. But whenever you approach something in a scientific manner, most of the times you end up saying, I don't know for sure, maybe something else. In fact, it's said that greatest scientists, they used to say, Newton had said that my theory of universal law of gravitation, it's true till someone comes and disproves it. So most of the times when you approach something scientifically, we'll pause here.
Yeah. So I think probably just to add to what you're saying, so maybe if we continue to make these videos, we may not have anything black and white said in each of the episodes, but we are only trying to ask questions and then generate those conversations. And if you watch these videos, I think if you are able to continue the conversation in your own circle and then probably bring conclusions for yourself in your own context, I think that would be serving the purpose of these videos, I think.
Yeah, and in fact, you don't need to subscribe to these videos.
No need to comment as well.
No need
Only
to
if
comment.
you feel like commenting, you do it, otherwise don't need to. Yeah.